Tariffs, the weapons of economic war. Once tools of negotiation, they've become the front line in the battle for geopolitical supremacy. The world isn't moving toward free trade, it's plunging into a new era of economic nationalism. With the United States, China, India, and the European Union all redrawing their trade lines, the question is urgent. What's the future of global trade under these escalating tariffs? Despite campaign promises, President Biden has retained many of Trump's aggressive tariff policies, particularly on Chinese electronics and industrial goods. In a recent statement, Donald Trump unveiled a list of new proposed tariffs: 50% on Chinese goods, 20% on products from Mexico, 60% on car imports from Germany and Japan, and even 10 to 15% blanket tariffs on all countries cheating U.S. trade. China has responded with retaliatory tariffs on U.S. agricultural exports, rare earth restrictions, and bolstered trade deals with Russia and the Global South. India, under Prime Minister Modi, has also raised tariffs on Chinese electronics and imposed import restrictions on non-essential goods from the West to boost domestic production. The European Union, meanwhile, is pushing the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, green tariffs aimed at high-emission imports, targeting goods from the United States, China, and India. Winners: domestic manufacturers in protected markets like U.S. steel, Indian textiles, and EU renewables. Regional trading blocs such as the RCEP and USMCA. Emerging economies stepping into the supply chain void, including Vietnam, Mexico, and Bangladesh. Losers: consumers facing higher prices across essential categories. Export-driven economies like South Korea and Germany. Global companies whose multi-nation supply chains are now a logistical nightmare. Tariffs have become a new inflationary pressure point. The World Bank and IMF recently warned that protectionism is worsening post-COVID inflation. Central banks are struggling to balance interest rate hikes with price instability driven by trade policy. Countries around the world are leaning more and more into regionalism. The RCEP, led by China, is shaping up to be the world's largest trading bloc, with a strong focus on Asia. Meanwhile, the USMCA, comprising the United States, Mexico, and Canada, is redirecting supply chains away from Asia. At the same time, India is actively forming regional agreements across the Indo-Pacific, aiming to reduce its dependence on China. Tariffs, it seems, have evolved into a tool of foreign policy. The United States is weaponizing tariffs as part of its economic war with China and to gain diplomatic leverage over its allies. In response, China isn't just imposing tariffs of its own, but is also engaging in currency manipulation and even resource embargoes. Over in Europe and India, there's a delicate balancing act. Nationalism is being weighed against global cooperation, all in an effort to protect their economies. Tariff focus has shifted to high-tech industries. U.S. tariffs are now targeting Chinese semiconductors and AI hardware. Meanwhile, China is pouring resources into achieving chip self-sufficiency and offering tax breaks to its tech giants. India, on the other hand, has rolled out production-linked incentives, or PLI, to shield its emerging electronics and electric vehicle sectors from foreign dominance. And over in Europe, the EU is investigating allegations of Chinese EV dumping and is actively considering countermeasures. There are a few possible scenarios for the road ahead. Scenario 1, trade fragmentation. Global trade fractures into self-contained zones led by the US, China, and the EU. Scenario 2, the eco-tariff era. Environmental standards become the next battleground, with countries using them as trade weapons. Scenario 3, cyber trade battles. Digital tariffs emerge, targeting cloud storage, AI tools, and data usage. Scenario 4, a tariff Cold War. A prolonged multi-decade standoff between the US and China defines the global trade landscape. Tariffs today are not just taxes on imports. They've become declarations of intent. They're how nations signal alliances, protect their industries, and advance their agendas. With Trump promising new waves of tariffs and countries moving quickly to defend their positions, the future of global trade is starting to resemble a high-stakes game of economic chess, rather than the free flow of goods and services. If you think trade wars are just about price tags, think again. They're about power, plain and simple. Don't miss out. Like, share, and subscribe to stay ahead in the world's most high-stakes game.